All right, welcome back. We are ready for rounds 2 and 3 of the Superflex mixed with IDP rookie draft. Happy to be joined by Fantasy Ladder Steve here, who was also took part in this mock draft. So very happy to have you. So now we can both kind of talk about and hopefully justify some of our picks here.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, we'll jump right in. I'm going to leave it off. So in round one, I had mentioned we did have a few auto drafts, well, throughout the draft, as well as the very our guy Clinton there in the 10 spot. He was caught off guard. So we left off the last episode with uh, hammering home to not draft Isaiah Spiller in the first round of your rookie mocks. He's probably at this point more of a third, maybe even early fourth round guy, kind of stuck behind Eckler there in Los Angeles. So we'll just kind of cap that off, call that out. And then, so with the first pick of the second round was me. I decided to go with my top rated quarterback, fantasy wise, of this class, and scooped up Desmond Ritter as the third QB off the board. So for me personally, this felt like a great value. I know I'm kind of against consensus here. Uh, having Ritter ranked as my number one fantasy QB for Dynasty. So, looking forward a little bit there too. But I felt very happy with it. So, give me the harsh reality. What do you got?
No, I think I'm definitely in agreement that I think he'll likely have a pretty quick turnaround into fantasy relevance, and I think
Mm-hmm,
it's an offense that has nowhere to go but up. He does have
mm-hmm,
Kyle Pitts. He now has Drake London, so it is becoming a very nice situation, and they are looking to be bad once again for this season. So they'll
mm-hmm.
be in prime position to add more weapons to the offense. And again, I think it just kind of goes back to who the head coach is, who had a lot of success as the offensive
Yeah,
coordinator of the Titans.
right.
So I actually do like the fit a lot. He is a
Mm-hmm.
very good offensive mind. So I'm with you. He's not going to get much further beyond the early second. So that is an
Exactly.
absolute smash spot there. So I like that.
Yeah, I think as we see, we did this as 10 teams, just to kind of, well, A, get through it quicker, B, with the inclusion of the IDPs and going 6 rounds, I felt like that would be a little bit more. So you could easily see Ritter sneaking into the middle or back end of the first in Superflex draft. So if you like
Absolutely.
him, right, if you like him, you're probably going to have to go get him. I think, just being honest, this was pretty lucky for me to have him fall to the first pick of the second round. So, any other Ritter truthers out there, you're gonna have to pull the trigger probably a little bit earlier. And yeah, he's got what Mariota there for probably a year. Might even see action this year if Mariota goes down, which he's not the bastion of health. And also if they start off, 0-5, 6, 7, 8, what's the point of continuing to put Mariota out there? You might as well see what Ritter's got. So, yeah, that's kind of why I feel like at the very least he's probably got the highest ceiling right now, even in year one. And then I just really like him going forward. Seems like, I saw in the drafts he's got a little baby already. He's like 21, 22 years old. So that maturity factor comes into play. So I just think I think I'm justified having him as my number one QB. So then we move to the second pick here, Christian Watson. Splits the room a little bit, I think, even as people dive into the situation and the stats. North Dakota State, or whatever, North Dakota FBS, the Bison, who dominate that conference, but not exactly playing top tier competition. So I'm souring on Watson as time goes forward. I was really excited after the combine, as many people, but as I'm really digging into the story here, I'm kind of souring on him. How about you?
He's actually one who was a pretty significant riser for me. because he does have these really good athletic traits. He has an awesome
Yeah,
frame as well.
no doubt.
The lack of competition cannot be overlooked, but I think being able to catch passes from Aaron Rodgers, I think, is a major upgrade. To when you look at the situations across the league, there is a gaping hole left by Devontae Adams. I'm not saying he's going to be Devontae Adams. I'm just saying he's got tremendous opportunity with high quality targets coming from Aaron Rodgers and fantastic draft capital. I know that the second round of the NFL draft was kind of wonky. That there's a whole bunch of interesting selections there. I'm no NFL GM, but it was still a little interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure.
But as the 34th overall pick, that's where Watson went. So the
Very
Packers,
early.
the Packers just barely missed him in the first round, and then they traded up for him. So I think that goes to show that there is a serious degree of instant involvement. Obviously we have to see how training camp goes and if he can put it together and everything else. But I think he could step right away in as the wide receiver 2 there, which is tremendous. So I do understand the skepticism. I would tend to want to bite on the upside though, for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah. He's more, for me, he's just kind of a proceed with caution guy. Everybody, you either love him or you hate him, it kind of feels like. So again, if you believe in what you're seeing on film and the landing spot, by all means, this is an appropriate round and pick to take him in. But like I said, I just think, proceed with caution here. So that brings us to the third pick of the second round, Skye Moore to the Kansas City Chiefs. Also, wait, he was second round draft capital, right? Also, or third? I can't remember. Let's see.
He was also in the second. Yeah, he was drafted.
I couldn't remember.
54th overall, 223. So second round, 23rd pick there.
Yeah.
So another fantastic landing spot. So in this mock draft, he would have been the 7th wide receiver drafted. I have seen him go as high as wide receiver 5 in some of the rookie drafts I have already done. So yeah, to be able to get him at the top of the second here is pretty good. Obviously, another great landing spot in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. He'll be catching balls from Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Big shoes to fill with Tyreek Hill gone. So really just another one of these situations where if you miss on the top 5 wide receivers from the first round, an easy fallback option here in the top of the second. So I'm very excited for Skye Moore.
Yeah, I've got Moore personally ahead of Watson, so definitely a great pick there, and what a great start in that 3 spot, Burks and Moore. Holy smokes! So I love the start. I love the start for that team, and I love their third round pick too. Here, we'll get to that, but yeah, Skye Moore's one of those guys. He was actually being hyped up by some really prominent people. I know Ray GQ was a big fan of him. Looking through his stats and everything. Of course, producing at a smaller school, but that doesn't always matter. We've seen stars come out of these smaller schools. So I know the dynasty formula usually preaches talent over situation, and this is a great argument. Watson versus Moore. Talent versus situation here. So it's a bit of a conundrum with these guys, and they're going so close to each other in a bunch of mocks that I see. So definitely a situation to keep your eyes on. But if you like Moore, if you like Watson, go and grab them. Both have fantastic landing spots. Both have fantastic athletic measurables. Moore was way more of a producer in college, so he's got the edge for me there. But can't really fault anyone either way for either of these guys. So that's going to take us to the pick 4. Again, we're in Superflex. So Matt Corral going to the Carolina Panthers. Not exactly the most talented QB room there right now, with Sam Darnold still leading the way. apparently. I don't really know what's going on with that whole situation. So he could be another one that just kind of lands in a great spot. He might not get a lot of production year one, so he might be a taxi squad guy. But man, in Superflex, I think his ceiling is incredibly high again. And man, do they have some weapons in Carolina. So if he could even sneak onto the field year one and try to see what he's got, I think that would be great. So I'm a big Corral fan. He's one that I'm rising on. I was a little down on him, with the injury, being a little pessimistic, but he's definitely rising the more I think about it. Darnold stinks, so it can't get much worse than him. So how do you feel about Corral?
Yeah, no, I think he definitely has a very interesting amount of athleticism in his game. It's just a matter of if he can hone it in. What's interesting is I'm a big Corral fan too, because he presents that like Konami code type, you know what I mean? Where he has that rushing upside. And again, it's like with Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore, hopefully Terrace Marshall can pan out. Corral was drafted at the back end of the third round, so definitely may need to be patient on him. I would say more so because of the injury. That kind of gives Sam Darnold a little bit of a free pass in the early part of the season. But again, if Darnold implodes the way he did last year, where they had to rely on PJ Walker, who's decent in his own right, but still like it's not great for Darnold's sake. One downside with Corral is that he is 23 years old. So he's he's not 21 the way I think Kenny Pickett is. So
Ritter's 21.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So that does matter obviously for Dynasty, but like you said off the top, definitely a taxi squad type of guy. But a lot of upside there. So definitely if you need quarterback, he's a guy I would not hesitate to take care getting towards the middle of the second.
Nice. Yeah, totally agree. We all know Sam Darnold is going to implode. So I think that's we try to predict the future here. I think that's one of the easiest calls of the year coming into 2022. If he doesn't even get beat out in camp, that's albeit small possibility. And obviously most of the quarterback hits have been first round, but third round isn't a death sentence either.
No, it's not.
We've seen plenty of third round guys, coming in and make a difference and have careers. I mean, quarterback, there's only 32 of them. It's a constantly changing rotation of who the top guys are. So, in Superflex, you might as well take your shots on these guys. And I like the landing spot. So I'll let you go first on the next guy here, James Cook. I think, I'll do a little quick intro on him. We saw him go second round. We saw him, go here in the middle of the second round. Now, again, it's a 10-team league. He's a guy that is just zooming up draft boards. So you're not going to get him where he landed here. And that's all I wanted to say about that first.
No, definitely. So second round draft capital was a little bit surprising, but a lot of us were figuring that the Bills would be targeting running back because Devin Singletary, where he is, solid. He's not great. I would tend to say he's like just another guy, and the Zach Moss experience has not worked out either. Yeah. So in this case,
you're being way too nice. You're being way too nice.
I try to be pleasant at all times, but yeah. So. But James Cook was my running back 4 pre-draft. He does bump up to my RB3, and I would not hesitate to take him in the back end of the first round. So maybe in this mock draft, perhaps we just swap Cook with Spiller, and Spiller goes where Cook is going here.
Exactly.
But so he's definitely as a back end of the first round type of a talent. So this guy who got him here got a fantastic value as far as I'm concerned. Being in that Buffalo offense is just he really could just be a final piece to the puzzle there, just to get them over the top. But Josh Allen still has his own ways of scoring on the ground, so there's always that. But this was one of the landing spots that really like widened my eyes as I saw the pick come in. So I'm very excited for Cook. How about you?
Yeah, definitely. He was high on my list pre-draft too, post-combine pre-draft. I forget exactly where I had him, but he was up there. I think he's easily the running back 3 of the class now, like by a lot. Like him and Walker are kind of almost in the same tier, and
Yep.
then it's a long, long way down from there. Some of the haters, like to say that he's kind of a satellite back plus. I don't understand why that's a bad thing. Cook feels to me like sort of like a James White clone. He could have a very similar role with high value touches. What do some of the best dynasty minds out there preach? Running backs targets are more valuable than carries. So why is this a bad thing? Like why are people hating on Cook, being drafted so high and going to Buffalo and timeshare, all these excuses when it's literally the perfect landing spot. He's going to get high value touches. Is he ever going to walk into a workhorse role in his career? No, he's not. I don't think he's made for that. But is he? Again, he's getting high value touches and targets, and I think James White scored 11, 12 touchdowns not that long ago. I think Cook could easily do that. I mean, he's just a guy that feels like he's going to give you our solid, like low end RB1, high end RB2 stats from the gate, out of the gate. So I love him. Yes, flipping him with Spiller makes a ton of sense there. End of the first round. I've seen him going in the middle of the first, even sometimes in 12 team mock. So people are very high on him, and I think rightfully so. So that brings us to your pick here. It almost feels like you kind of got sniped there, and then taking Rashad White. So tell me what your thoughts were there.
Yeah, so definitely after Cook, there is a bit of a teardrop as far as the running backs are concerned. But at the top of that next tier, I do like Rashad White. I do like Damien Pierce as well. We'll get to him. But in this case, I wanted to try to get a handle on the Tampa Bay running back situation there. No more Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette just came off of this phenomenal season, like really like an unbelievable type of a season. Again, not exactly a perfect picture of health either. So I think Rashad White is likely to be the number 2 ahead of Keyshawn Vaughn. And maybe if Giovanni Bernard is still there, I mean, he could still rotate in as like the pass catching weapon. Like Brady likes those kinds of running backs. But for me, this was like a really close call between White and McBride. So I went with White here instead of McBride because I do like a few of the later round tight ends that you can get. And that's where I went a little bit later on. So I was pretty pumped to get Rashad White, who was my RB3 pre-draft. So he would become my RB 4 or 5 at this point. Just kind of depends on what you want to do. So I was happy to take him there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, totally fair. I think those Pac-12 running backs scare me a little bit, and he's buried on the depth chart to start off. However, for Dynasty, I think he's an amazing stash and could end up very well being one of the top running backs to come out of the class. And when we look back 2-3 years, Leonard Fournette is probably gone finally after this year. Keyshawn Vaughn stinks, and Giovanni Bernard will technically be ahead of him on the depth chart, but running backs get injured the most out of any position. So I do think White will see the field this year at some point. It could be in the second half, maybe last third of the season, but definitely love his profile, and it's a solid landing spot. He may only have a year or two with Brady left, so that's going to be a whole nother issue to deal with in a year or two, but we'll see. Yeah, I think he's easily the RB4 of this class by a long shot. So he is in the second tier for me, but top of that tier, second tier.
Yeah, I think with the context of when this mock draft happened, I believe we did this on Saturday morning. So throughout that day, Damien Pierce got drafted very high on day 3.
Yeah, right.
So I think he and we'll get to him, but I think
Yeah.
if we had done this on Sunday morning, perhaps I would have gone Damien Pierce. That would have been more of a tougher call rather than like an instant Rashad White, who was taken at the end of
Right.
night 2 rather than
Right.
early day 3. But either way, very happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Solid. Solid pick.
Not a regret with that.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'm definitely glad you were talking about the decision between taking White versus McBride. I think you hammered the right decision there. McBride again is another guy that I'm kind of beginning to sour on.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yes, he was the first tight end drafted. I guess maybe just sour for year one. And I know tight ends take time to develop to begin with, but it just bugs me. Well, and same with White. If they were planning to draft, maybe they weren't planning and they felt like they could have got a good value. But then why re-sign Giovanni Bernard? Like White is. He's Giovanni Bernard 10 years younger. It just doesn't make sense. McBride, they gave Zach Ertz an extension, big money, and brought back Max Williams, who started off the year, producing as a fringe, TE1 for the first few games before he got injured, and that's why they traded for Ertz. So both of them return, and now you've got McBride. So I guess the plan is, I guess the Cardinals are also playing dynasty fantasy football and playing the stash McBride. So yeah, I don't know. It's the mix of I want those year one results and you try to look for the future. I just personally, especially with this class, I don't have him in his own tier by any means. So I'm just not taking him that early in the second round. He's probably going to continue to go that high, but it's just not for me this year. Again, not that I don't like him. It's just where he's going. I don't hate the player. I hate the ADP right now. So for me, I'm out on the ADP. That's all.
Gotcha. Yeah, my brain is just always kind of in tight end premium mode. Like my most important dynasty leagues are tight end premium, so that's just kind of how my head is geared. But I do love the offensive situation. They already have their franchise quarterback. Ertz is there, obviously. Max Williams is there, obviously. But and Ertz did produce very well after being traded from the Eagles, where he was a little up and down to the start with the Eagles last year. He just did not look like the same player, in my opinion, the previous season, Zach Ertz. So I do think maybe you just wait a year with McBride, and I do like his talent. So in a pretty scarce position at tight end, I think, more so in tight end premium leagues, I would tend to be more aggressive on McBride if I don't feel the need for the next lineup of wide receivers. So just kind of like a roster dependent thing, but I would absolutely would pounce, especially in a tight end premium league. But you just gotta be patient. You just gotta be patient though.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with. So yeah, I understand.
Yep.
Okay. So our next two picks, I'm kind of going to maybe lump them together here, but Jahan Dotson, a first round wide receiver, middle of the first round too, and George Pickens, early day 2 to Pittsburgh. Both of these guys have incredible talent, incredible college production. Actually, sorry, Pickens didn't have great college production because of his injury in the offense he was in, but he's easily, everybody, if you watch his tape, he's hands down has an argument for the number one most talented wide receiver in this entire class. I think he fell just simply because of the injury and the lack of college production in that run first Georgia offense. So if it were me, I would have swapped these two, and I would have also had them pushed up a little earlier in this round ahead of maybe some of these other guys, ahead of, honestly, for me, probably Watson and Moore. Maybe not Dotson, but man, is it tough to ignore that draft capital. So yeah, Dotson kind of lands in a shitty situation with Wentz as his quarterback and McLaurin as a target hog there. So he might be one to be a little patient with. And the Steelers just hit home runs with their wide receiver selection. So it's tough to ignore Pickens' landing spot with all that talent. So I love both of these guys. I think this was incredible value here at the back end of the second round. The two what do we got? 6 and 2-7. Probably not going to go that late in drafts again as time goes forward here. But I a lot of people are down on Dotson. I'm trying to stay level-headed about him and not drop him too far just because of the landing spot. They're going to have a new quarterback soon, so I like both of these picks here.
Yeah, definitely. And you nailed it as far as Pittsburgh hitting on these wide receivers. You just like go down the list of these wide receivers that they've hit on the second round. Just in recent history,
Insane.
Chase Claypool has performed well at times. So is Deontay Johnson, another second round pick. Juju Smith-Schuster. It's just like not fair, Like I wish, it doesn't matter, but it's just amazing. So I think Pickens would likely jump ahead of Dotson here for me, as big of a Dotson fan as I am.
That's
think
right.
I'm not backtracking on Dotson's ability or his talent. And then again, the draft capital was quite shocking to me. I did think he was a first round talent. I had him mocked to the Kansas City Chiefs there at the end of the first round. I thought that would have been cool, but either way, landed in Washington was a very pleasant surprise. But you nailed it as far as the Wentz factor and the McLaurin factor. I think it is possible that he could step in as like second or third on the depth chart as far as like total targets are concerned, but it's that quality of targets question that we sort of threw back with like Skye Moore and Watson. Way better quality of targets there, so that's probably why Dotson gets a little bit pushed back in this mock draft. So I really can't argue with it. I am a big fan of the player, but just not a huge fan of the situation for sure. Yeah.
And that's why I said we got to try to stay level-headed and not go too crazy with dropping him too far. I think he's an easy pick ahead of McBride, and both of them again, easy picks ahead of McBride there. And let's think about what's there. There's no real tight end of any substance in Washington. I know Logan Thomas had his time in the sun. That's over. He's injured. He's old. It was a great story. I'm out on Logan Thomas. I actually do love John Bates, but he's not going to command a ton. He's going to be a touchdown dependent guy. And I thought they drafted a tight end. I can't remember who off the top of my head, but they grabbed a guy who I'll have to look that up later. But
it looks like
who was it?
Cole Turner.
Cole Turner, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Nevada, right?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I just have a
He's a nice tight end prospect. So, but again, he's not going to see the field much in year one, especially if Logan Thomas can actually stay healthy. There's no other wide receivers. They have stupid McKissick there, who I hope they stop feeding targets. So, but just all that being said, there's definitely room for him to work in as the number 2 target share leader. So Pickens destroys Chase Claypool's value, in my opinion. I think Chase Claypool, put him on the trash heap. I don't want much to do with him. So
yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to be a Steeler, but by the time his second contract comes up, so I just think I think Pickens is going to take that and run with it. And again, I like the athletic upside of Claypool, but maybe some like maturity issues, and things like this. I hope for his sake he lands in a good spot, but I think you're right. I think he is one of these big like descending type of players, unfortunately, but
he had
Pickens benefit.
He had that monster, 3 or 4 touchdown game against our Birds here, and hasn't really done much since then.
That's right. Of course,
but everyone
remembers against the Eagles. Yeah.
Of course. And everyone remembers that and thinks, he's going to do that for them multiple times. And trash heap for me. Sorry, Claypool. So the last pick of the second 10-team league here, we had, and I believe this was an actual pick and not another pick, but I can't remember. And it feels like just sort of a meh situation, even though he got decent draft capital, but wide receiver David Bell to the Cleveland Browns. Obviously Deshaun Watson's there. So if you have Watson throwing you the ball, that's pretty sweet. Amari Cooper, of course, is going to be the number one, target hog. They paid David Njoku, who I think it might be this number 2 target. So David Bell might be another taxi guy. He produced in the SEC, which was great. Came out kind of flat in the combine, so his athletics took a dip, and that's why some people are low on him. And again, this just feels like a meh pick, which probably means that he's going to end up being the best receiver of the class. So he could end up being a steal. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I'm just sort of indifferent, honestly. I know it's a horrible opinion for fantasy, but I'm kind of indifferent.
Yeah, I think at this, I do like David Bell as a player. I think he's, a really good route runner. I think he's really got that going for him. I think he can round out that receiving core pretty well. Obviously, Amari Cooper's the alpha, and Donovan Peoples-Jones can be like the deep threat there.
That's right.
So I think this draft spot hurts Donovan Peoples-Jones more than Amari Cooper in this case. Hopefully Cooper can stay on the field and things like this. But I would be happy to get David Bell at the back end of the second round, although with I guess we'll get to Alec Pierce, but I think it's kind of arguable if you would kind of go Alec Pierce in that spot or David Bell if you were aiming for a wide receiver. Just real quick, if you had to decide right now between Bell or Pierce, who would you go with?
Oh man, I think I would stick with Bell. No, okay. I love it. I think I would stick with Bell.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I just the production in college can't be ignored in the SEC against top tier competition, and I like his quarterback a little bit better. So it's definitely close. I love the scenario there. It's definitely close, but I think I'll stick with Bell on that one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Cool. So now we jump to the first pick of the third round. I pulled the trigger to set off the IDP run. So with the first pick of the third round, first IDP off the board, as it should be in most leagues, unless your league rewards heavily for sacks. We're talking about 6 points minimum all in for sacks. If that's the case, I could see an argument to take some of the top edge rushers that were drafted. But if you're working with 4 points or less on sacks, Devin Lloyd, linebacker to the Jacksonville Jaguars, is 10 out of 10 should be the first IDP pick. That offense is still not great, which means the defense should be on the field a lot. And the Jaguars do, have 2 linebackers on the field. Foye Oluokun signed there, got some big money. But he's going to be playing next to him all the time. And we saw Miles Jack have a really good year last year. And even old man Damien Wilson chipped in with some decent games. Lloyd is, heads and shoulders a better compliment than Damien Wilson. So he can do everything. He can rush the passer. He can cover. He's, if Oluokun is missing tackles, Lloyd's going to be there and scoop him up. So I think this is easily, the number one IDP pick. So
I just have a quick question. So I'm not as well versed in IDP as you are, although I do play in a league. A narrative I can tell myself to hone in on is you want to get linebackers from teams who are going to be losing a lot. In the same way you want wide receivers from teams who are going to be losing a lot because the pass volume at the end of the game will kind of boost that up. Do you think that do you think that logic holds up with a linebacker like Lloyd? For example, last year in my only IDP league, which I won the championship of, not to brag.
Nice.
I did ride the duo of Bobby Wagner and Brooks on the Seahawks, who were just brutal, a lot of the season, especially at the end, they just gobbled up tackles. So I think that logic worked out just in that case. But just generally speaking, with your experience, is that a wise way to approach, or is that just kind of I got lucky, or that's can happen but not always?
It certainly varies year to year, but that is definitely a solid strategy. I mean, look, we had Roquan Smith be in most leagues, I would say, the number one linebacker Bears offense stunk. I mean, so there's certainly a correlation there. So, and that's totally a reason why I have Lloyd so high. We saw with Alucon too in Atlanta. Their offense stunk, and he was on the field for over 1,000 snaps, which is why he was so productive in IDP. He's a little bit of fool's gold for me. I think Devin Lloyd is a far better player and linebacker than Alucon for sure. So, first round draft capital, I think Foye went in like the 5th round of the NFL draft. So, yeah, he got paid, probably a stupid move by the Jags. Both looks like NFL and fantasy players, a bit of fool's gold there. Again, when you're on the field for 1,000, 1,100 snaps, if you don't produce, there's a red flag. But I mean, you could throw anyone almost in there and they're going to produce like that. So, I think Devin Lloyd's just a home run. He's going to be their, starter for many, many years to come. So easily the number one IDP off the board. So then we had someone take the second. So of course, like I said, kind of started the run. So we had Aidan Hutchinson go at the second pick of the 3rd round. And again, just kind of preface it, great pick if you're in a sack heavier league that rewards, at least 6 points or more for sacks. I think great home run here. I think Hutchinson's a really good player. So there's not much else to be said there. It really just depends on your league setting. So you like Hutch there?
Absolutely. Yeah. I guess it's kind of debatable, who your top edge rusher was there, but I think that it's as safe as they come. So I can't argue with that for sure.
Yeah, there's not, like I said, there's just not much to go there. He should be a solid producer. He's got talent. Detroit's offense, I mean, shoot, we saw Charles Harris be a relevant pass rusher last year in the Detroit defense. So who was a former 1st round pick, but he floundered for 4 or 5 years before he finally seemed to catch on there in Detroit. So I'm sure Hutchinson will have no problem mirroring and exceeding the stats even in his rookie year there. So definitely going to be more sack dependent, but you need those guys depending on your league settings. So if you're kind of in a run of a mill, only start a few IDPs, he doesn't go here, and I wouldn't suggest taking him. You want to grab your linebackers and your tackling box safeties way earlier, which brings us to the next pick of Kyle Hamilton. Now, I said Lloyd is far and away the number one pick. Actually, if I'm thinking about my rankings, I have Hamilton as the first IDP in Dynasty because I think he's just going to be a staple on that defense for years to come. He was a steal in the NFL draft. We know Baltimore just picks nothing but studs on defense. So you could argue Lloyd or Hamilton as the first IDP off the board. I think Lloyd's going to be better in year 1, but I think Hamilton has the better overall career. So that's just what I'll say about that.
Gotcha. Yeah, it seems like the linebacker position is a little deeper, and like the top defensive backs, it's not as deep, so easier to replace Lloyd, say he were to get injured, not as easy to replace Hamilton. Did you think that is true, or okay?
100%.
Gotcha.
Linebackers are always a deeper position, and safeties always come out of nowhere. But I think Hamilton's you look at his tape, he's just going to be a perennial Pro Bowler and a stud in real football and for IDP fantasy football as well. So for me, I would have slid Hamilton in front of Hutchinson here. And then, like I said, you could argue Hamilton or Lloyd as the first IDPs off the board. So great picks all around there, though. No problem. Early 3rd, mid 3rd, all really depends on how many IDPs you're starting and what your scoring settings are. So we then had Kyron Williams go at the 4th pick of the 2nd round. He's another guy who was, people loved him, loved his tape, and then he just really fell flat on his face at the combine. Horrible 40, which is a bit, most combine stats don't correlate at all. But for running backs and 40 times, it does a little bit. So he's got people scared. and he landed in Los Angeles with the Rams, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, what do you think about Kyron?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a shocking selection for the Rams to take them. I kind of like their trio with Akers and Darrell Henderson. I'm a big Darrell Henderson guy. I like Akers a lot too. So I just think that's a really solid 1-2 punch. And then Sony Michel can just come in and just chip away at the clock and stuff if they're up big. And so that was a little bit surprising to me. I think that was not an area of need for them. So I really don't love this for Kyron Williams because I think he does profile as a pass catcher. I kind of wish he went to a different spot. Obviously, it's a great offense to be in. So a lot of patience is going to be needed with him. So if things fall the right way, he could definitely have some value, but he would just seem to be like an instant taxi guy, which is, I would think, acceptable in the third round. Although I'm thinking like fourth round and beyond is where you want to be targeting some of those guys for the taxi. So if you could help it, that's what I would do. And maybe again, with the context of when this actual mock draft happened, it was before the picks started coming in on day 3. Maybe that would have altered a little bit here. But an interesting player, very good offense to be in, but a little bit buried at this point.
For sure. Totally agree with everything you said there. It just sucks. He's instantly buried on the depth chart. Yeah, I feel like Michelle could maybe be a cut candidate come camp time. I don't know what his contract status is, but I don't think it's much of anything. So he feels like a guy that. So maybe he moves up to third if they cut him or Williams, but I don't think or Henderson. Sorry, I think he's still on his rookie contract, so there wouldn't be much reason to cut him. So yeah, he's buried. He's a taxi squad guy. So everything you said, 100% right on there. So we can move to the next pick, the 2-5. And my boy, Sammy Howe, I have some hot takes here. First of all, I think that's a great value, and you'll be able to get him in these mid-third, even in 12-team Superflex leagues. He seems to be hanging around the mid to early third there. I say smash that. Wentz is a placeholder. I still think Howell's the best quarterback of this class. Talent-wise, Ritter is my number one with landing spot, but I got Howell right behind him, which is also anti-consensus. So I think he might get a shot this year. We know Carson Wentz stinks and he can't stay healthy. So I certainly think he sees the field in year one. And man, I just hope he balls out. He had some great years at North Carolina there with some great talent surrounding him. This past year, he lost a bunch of people. So to the NFL draft last year. So, he kind of had to take a lot on, and he still had decent enough production. But, now when you call him up to the NFL and again surround him with NFL talent, I just love him. And I think he's going to be a great value. And again, sort of like these wide receivers, I think when we look back 5 years from now, how could easily be the best quarterback of this bunch here. So he's my personal favorite. I have him ranked right behind Ritter for fantasy and dynasty, but my heart, he's number one.
Gotcha. Yeah, the second Washington drafted him, I just got instantly excited for the surrounding players like Dotson, like McLaurin. But again, it'll be a year, maybe 2 away. Yeah. So this is one of these things got to be patient with. But I am literally surprised. I always do this. You just have to expect the unexpected in the NFL draft. I just couldn't believe he went in the 5th round, top of the 5th round. I'm like, this is insane to me. Our friend from Campus to Canton, Alfred Fernandez, he just kept tweeting every time Washington was on the clock. He's like, 331 Washington. Who says no? Then he would quote tweet 140, who whatever. And then finally it was 144. That was it.
That's
oh
amazing.
My gosh. I just was following along with that, just cracking up. But I think Washington got one of the absolute best values in this draft there. I just think it's laughable to me.
Totally agree.
it's just incredible. So I'm with you on that take for sure.
Yeah. And my thing is, the NFL can predict quarterbacks just about as well as I can. I mean, they've proven that they stink so you know what? I'm kind of just, I'm not just going to follow the draft capital on this one, especially with this year's crop, who was all over the place to begin with and kind of weak in most people's minds. So that's my guy. I don't know. I'm riding with Sammy.
There you go.
So our next pick was you here, and for being not a big IDP guy, you made a pretty damn savvy pick here, taking Nakobe Dean at the 3-6. So tell me what you liked about him.
Nakobe Dean was a player I was hoping our Philadelphia Eagles would select in this draft.
Same.
And as the first round went, I mean, I think he could have been a first round talent. Whatever. I'm not like
he is a first round talent. He is.
Okay, that makes me feel better because I'm like, am I taking crazy pills?
Yeah.
Second round comes, they pass on him for the center. I'm like, oh man, like please. So they got him. They finally got him, and I just think he plugs in right away as the middle linebacker to start the season. He will just be a complete tackle monster. He's there to replace Alex Singleton, who is the team's leading tackler the last 2 seasons. So I think if I'm targeting a middle linebacker or a linebacker in general, very happy to have Nakobe Dean. And again, it's a little extra fun just being an Eagles fan to snag him here. I didn't want to wait too long. I didn't want to miss out on him. So very happy to get him at that spot.
Very smart. Very good pick. Watching the draft, man, once that second round went by, I was like, that's it. We're not going to get him, because everybody was clamoring for Howie to grab him. So I thought once they pass on him in the second, I was like, there's no way somebody else is going to grab him. And he somehow lasted to us in the third. I think people overreact with some of these injuries. Word starts spreading, and I think it's just going to go down as an incredible value for the Eagles. I'm a little more cautiously projecting his start of the year with the injury, and TJ Edwards played really well, and he's still in town. They signed Kyron White. And they still have Davion Taylor, a former third-round pick, who was playing really well when he was healthy. He actually displaced Alex Singleton when he was healthy, but he got injured again. So I think the start of the year could be now it's going to be a rotation probably all year, which is going to be very frustrating if you don't play best ball IDP. Between Edwards, I think White falls to the bottom. I think because they only gave him a 1-year deal, and I don't think it was much money. I actually have projected him as a potential camp cut as well, because I just and I think it'll all depend on Dean, how he progresses with the shoulder injury. So it could be a bit of a rotation there, but it is the Eagles. It's a linebacking core. They never do stay healthy. But whoever is getting the snaps, and you're just going to have to keep an eye on that, will be a major producer. And God, for long-term dynasty outlook, this is a home run. He should have gone. I had to have him going way ahead of the edge rushers as well. So great pick here. So
thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So now we get to a guy that you're excited to talk about, Alec Pierce, to the Indianapolis Colts with second-round draft capital out of Cincinnati at the 3-7 pick.
Yeah, so Alec Pierce, to me, he profiled as like a faster version of Eric Decker. That was kind of like what I had kind of pinned him as.
Ooh.
Now, he wasn't as productive as Decker was in college, so I didn't want to get like too hasty on that, but just like the size and how he could profile on a team. And then with the second round, again, I wasn't expecting that, but he did have really great speed displayed during the combine with Desmond Ritter at Cincinnati and everything. So very excited for Alec Pierce to get drafted in the way he did. Go into a Colts offense now led by Matt Ryan, just that ever-changing quarterback room there in Indianapolis. Is this the sixth straight season with a new starting quarterback? It's insane.
I think you're right.
It's either 5 or 6. Like if I'm losing count, that's really interesting. Again, just trying to be pleasant here. So I really like this landing spot. Again,
Yeah.
I think Matt Ryan can support multiple pass catching weapons, but really in
Mhm.
Indianapolis, it's still the Jonathan Taylor show. So
Yeah.
I think this does just overall help the offense as a whole. I think Pittman is still the main guy there, but I do like Alec
Mhm.
Pierce in this landing spot. I think it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, totally. I think he, could easily be in the running for the number 2 spot in targets. There's no tight end of consequence. I know I was a big Mo Alley Cox fan, but he just doesn't seem like he's putting it all together. They drafted Kyler Granson last year, so that's a big question mark. T.Y. Hilton, I think, is washed. So they're obviously replacing him with Pierce. Yeah, he might start the year as a starter if he's still on the team. But I think by the end of the year, we see a takeover here, whether it be just due to injury or production. Again, if the Colts are bad, they're probably going to roll Pierce out there to see what he's got. So yeah, I think he's got one of the higher ceilings of the class, actually. So that's great value there at the call it middle of the third, end of the third.
Right.
Yeah, he's going to be. I think he's going to be a boomer bust guy. If he face plants in his rookie year, and stays healthy and face plants, I think I'm out. But if he shows, some life, 500-600 yards, a few touchdowns, decent market share of targets, then I'm in as probably a buy low guy going into year 2. So I would probably cut bait quick if he face plants. We've all seen the Jalen Reagor story. So but yeah, if he shows even a little bit of life, I like him moving forward. So it's all gonna have to depend on that year 1. So that takes us to another IDP pick at 3-8, Kayvon Thibodeau. My number 1 edge rusher of the class. I do have him ahead of Hutchinson and way ahead of Walker. I have a few others ahead of Walker, even, I think. Giants surprisingly had a really good draft. I think this is a smash landing spot for him. That defensive line as a whole is really good. They have 4 very talented players. So if Thibodeau is not going to be double teamed, which I don't think he will, because there's too much talent on that defensive line, I think he finishes the year with the most sacks of the rookie class. So I think that's a home run pick at the 3-8. And for me, if you're taking one of the edge guys, he's my first pick. So
Like it.
yeah, I know there's probably not much to add there for you.
Yeah, it's just,
And
it's just another Giants edge rusher. I just think of the years with like Ozu Manura and Justin Tuck. Like, this is all we need,
yeah,
as Eagles fans. It's like to get him at 5th overall, I think it was. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But it is what it
yeah,
is.
he slid a little bit, and yeah, he's, like I said, for again, depending on your settings and how many starters you have, for me, he would be the first of the of the pass rushers to go. So
Gotcha.
and now we get to your boy Damien Pierce at the 3-9 spot. So like you were saying, as the draft was going forward, he wasn't picked yet. So he lands in Houston. Honestly, it's a crowded backfield right now. You have a shit ton of mediocre guys there: David Johnson, Rex Burkhead, Royce Freeman, Marlon Mack. So it seems like he's buried on the depth chart out of the gate. Now, obviously, I don't think all those guys make it to camp or through camp. I'm sure they'll be cutting bait with at least one, probably 2. At least we're going to hope, if we like Damien Pierce, right?
Yeah, I have a hunch that he, maybe not the first half of the season. I definitely can see in
Right.
the second half of the season
Yes.
he could become a potential workhorse. And again, it's the Houston offense, so you kind of have to take that for what it is. It's not where we want it to be yet. Again, just trying to be
Yeah.
pleasant here, but it is definitely an offense on the rise. I think Davis
Yes.
Mills
Totally
is
agree.
definitely decent. Brandon Cooks, John Metchi, who we'll get to eventually here, or on the next show. But either way, I do think for dynasty purposes, that offense has nowhere to go but up. So I think he's a very interesting running back that I would even be pretty confident taking as early as a second round in that landing spot, because again, a lot of these running backs who were there are like a lot of these like fantasy favorites from like yesteryear. Like David Johnson is not the same David Johnson. Love the guy, but it's just not as much of a threat. And Rex Burkhead's a solid player, but he definitely was a product of that like New England offensive scheme and stuff. So, and Marlon Mack, again, another, fancy hipster favorite, but, just still, not quite what he was before like the Achilles injury. And Royce Freeman, I think he's most likely a goner.
We know what he is.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Damien Pierce can take over the backfield, which is still valuable to get someone who has a majority of the workload, despite it being maybe poor quality of touches. I still think that is attractive to get. So if your team does need running back help, I would not hesitate to take him in the second round. So with the context of when this mock draft was taken, it would have made sense, but definitely I think I can take the gamble, I should say, on the Houston offense ascending over the next couple of years.
Totally agree. I think they're sneaky, offense for even this coming year. I'm probably going to have a lot of Texans on my redraft leagues.
They're all going to be so cheap. They're all going to be so cheap.
Exactly.
Cooks will be the most expensive, and he'll still be drafted as like an RB3. It's just like, or 4 even. It's like unbelievable. But yeah, so all these guys are free lottery tickets. So I think Pierce definitely makes a lot of sense. Could pay off dividends through the bye weeks and then after in the back half of the season.
He's already a riser doing mock drafts in May here. So by the time we get to July and August, he might even creep into the first. Hopefully we don't see a Trey Sermon syndrome out of him, but I could easily see him sneak into the back of the first. Definitely a mid to early second round pick, and worthy of it. He was a darling of a lot of the Devy guys pre-combine, and I think he had a pretty decent enough combine as well. So he's talented. It's really just going to be about opportunity for him. If he gets a shot, hopefully he smashes and just doesn't look back. So totally agree with everything you said there. So the last pick here, I think, was another auto pick, unfortunately. Likely was a decent tight end projected, coming into the draft, but he went in the 5th round?
The end of the 4th round.
End of the 4th. But they also
a compensatory pick there for the Ravens. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and he was their second tight end of the draft taken. So
that's right.
He's almost off my board at this point with Mark Andrews there. I don't really know what they're doing because both of the players they took are I would say more like pass catching tight ends, or not necessarily blocking tight ends, if I recall correctly. So I don't really know what the thought process was. That was a little confusing. Maybe just depth. Maybe they're worried about Andrews' health. But I like their talent coming out, but he's sort of off my board. So instead of wasting time on him, why don't we and I'll cover it in the next show as well, but let's talk about John Metchi. I got him in the 4th with the first pick of the 4th round, 10 team, a second round wide receiver. I love it. I love the landing spot. I love the player. I heard a knock on him. I think it was the Podfather did a TikTok or someone was kind of knocking him as Oh no, it was the BD GE guys. We're knocking him as a slot, saying like he's a slot, maybe slot plus guy. And in my head, I'm like, why is that a bad thing? Some of the top receivers in the league and in the past for fantasy have been slot guys. So I don't really think that's necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, Cooks is going to be the hog, but Metchi's got speed. He's going to separate. So you put a guy like that into the slot, he's going to be open all the time. So, yeah, he's coming off the ACL, so he might not be. Actually, I think his newest blurb says he positive. Yeah, full go by July, projecting. So,
Oh, snap. That's nice.
yeah, so for me, he's going to be a rising star. I think honestly, I like him more than Pierce. They both have the same draft capital. I'm probably taking him ahead of Pierce personally. I do believe in Davis Mills also, so that's another reason. I might even have him ahead of David Bell. So for me, this was just a fantastic value pick for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you want to just follow the talent. You know, if you're
Mhm.
if you are a dominant receiver at Alabama, like,
Mhm.
what are we doing here? You know, so that is
Yeah.
like your pick of Metchi there at the top of the fourth. I was like, my goodness, like that's incredible. But that was great, good stuff.
Yeah, that he might have been depressed through the sleeper ADP, which is why we see, Spiller still went there. I mean, I don't think their ADP was updated. That's why we do these mocks. So shout out to anybody listening or watching. We run mocks all the time. If you follow the IDP Guys Twitter account, we'll usually post them out there. And if you want to hop in and join our rookie mocks, if we can film quick enough, we try to do quick timers like this one, 60 seconds. However, if it's taking us a little bit to fill up, sometimes we'll do like an hour timer, turn it off overnight to just allow, you've got people all over the country, sometimes the world. We get international people. So it just allows everyone to make a solid, reasonable pick without auto picks so that we have the best, ADP information. So we do rookie mock startups, dynasty startups. So keep your eyes peeled on our Twitter account. If anybody, we would love to have, our players, our subscribers, joining these mocks to help us build, accurate ADPs to help others win their drafts. So that's the goals of these whole things. Steve, thanks a lot for joining me. Follow Steve. He's at Fantasy Ladder on Twitter. I am Dynasty Santa on Twitter, and we'll see you for the next go around.